So my name's George Candler. I'm Assistant Director for Culture and Leisure here at Shropshire Council. Shropshire Council is one of the relatively new unitary authorities that were established back in April 2009. So prior to that, Shropshire was made up of Shropshire County Council and 5 district and borough councils. And obviously at that time, the districts and boroughs delivered on certain elements of culture and leisure and the county council on others. So when we came together as a single unitary, all of that culture and leisure provision was brought together. So in very broad terms, that's budgets totalling about 32 million with a net budget of about 13 million, and covers areas including libraries. We've got 23 libraries and 8 mobile libraries. Includes a number of museums, 9 in total, Shropshire Archives, our archives service, 21 leisure centres, 9 swimming pools, a rights of way service, 140 parks and outdoor sites. So it's a fairly extensive service, and coming together as a single authority obviously enabled us to position culture. It was great that we were as part of the refocused cabinet, that there was a portfolio holder for culture and leisure, and that really reflected the way that culture had moved in Shropshire and had really become quite pivotal in its impact on not just what it was doing in Shropshire, but also the way it was impacting on other areas such as the health agenda, such as worklessness and such like. So Shropshire and culture and leisure had really sort of come to the fore in the impact that it was making on people's lives, not just in making people feel good about themselves, but also on the wider agenda. Obviously 2010, we've entered a new era, if you like, and there's quite a fundamental need for transformational change within the public sector, and then more so within local government. Obviously we've had the comprehensive spending review back in October, and that has obviously resulted in a fairly seismic shift in the way that local authorities are going to be funded going forward in order to meet the financial climate that we find ourselves within, and probably will find ourselves within over the next few years. Local government is going to find about £6 billion worth of savings, equates to about 29% for most local authorities, and within Shropshire our overall budget is about 630 million, and we've got to find 76 million over the next 4 years, beginning 2011-12, April 2011-12. So a fairly significant amount of savings. Sort of putting that into context, when we went from 6 authorities into a single authority, we generated savings there of about 15 million. So we're now having to find that and a lot more as part of the comprehensive spending review. Culture and leisure, as we know, is not a statutory service on the whole. Within Shropshire we have libraries, which has a statutory function, and the rights of way service, but on the whole, and elements of archives, but on the whole it's a discretionary service, and when you take out, as most local authorities will have to, the funding that they have for schools, it leaves, if you like, that percentage amount that has to be found much greater in the remaining service areas, such as adult social care, such as developmental services such as highways and roads, and also culture and leisure. And culture and leisure, because of its discretionary nature, can be seen as an easier target, shall we say, than some of those other services where in some instances it is about life and death, particularly around children's services, particularly around adult social care. So we've had to think quite creatively. We've been driven by that transformational agenda of the financial climate, but also the political climate as well. Obviously the coalition government have introduced a number of new bills, including the localism bill, and actually I think that's one that Shropshire Council is embracing, and we're very much recognising that going forward it's no longer a one-size-fits-all in the way that we deliver our services, but very much has to reflect what the uniqueness is of the various local communities that we have, certainly in Shropshire, and to reflect the services in there to meet those local needs, to meet those aspirations where possible within the financial climate. I think what we're also recognising now is that Shropshire Council doesn't have to deliver directly all of those services, and that goes for culture as well. And we've already started to recognise that, and I think the crucial thing is I suppose not only recognising what value culture has, but also, if you like, coming forward with thoughts, ideas, suggestions that, if you like, meet the financial climate that we're in and where we're having to find savings, but also delivering against that localism agenda. And so one of the areas that we've looked at is within libraries. We have 23 libraries within Shropshire, and we need to clearly make some savings in those areas. We have a net budget of about 4 million, and we're looking to take about half out of that budget. Now that's a fundamental chunk to take out of the budget, particularly when it's predominantly buildings based, 23 buildings. Now we have 18 market towns in Shropshire, and what we're looking to do is have a real focus around those 18 market towns as part of the localism agenda. That means that there are some libraries that we will want to look to work with the local community to see whether there is capacity for some of those other libraries that don't sit necessarily within a market town, and whether there is an appetite for those local communities and a desire, if you like, to take on some of the running of those libraries. And so that's one area. But the fundamental shift is about the way that some of those services are delivered. And one particular library is in Clibberry Mortimer, which is a small market town in the south east of Shropshire. A relatively small population of about 5,000, and then there's a surrounding hinterland that supports that. And about 2 years ago, so this is pre, if you like, the general election and the localism focus, and indeed the financial climate that we find ourselves within, there was a project to establish a new business centre in Clibberry Mortimer. And the focus of that business centre was primarily for incubator units for small businesses to start up and develop in that particular part of the county. However, we also recognised that there was an opportunity to relocate the library out of its existing building, and it was currently the smallest library of our stock, and into this business unit, this brand new business unit. It was funded almost entirely by European monies and Regional Development Agency monies at the time, and obviously by putting the library in there, not only created a bit of a community focus for this particular building, but also gave the social enterprise company that were establishing it an element of longer term sustainability and financial comfort, knowing that they were having, if you like, a local authority service located within it. So it wasn't without its challenges, I think it's fair to say, in putting that library into that space. But it opened in June last year. It's a very green building, photovoltaic energy sources, ground heat source pump within it. So it's very green. It's already won a Civic Trust Award already, and it's only been open 6 months. But I think for me it's about recognising that a library service can be delivered by an alternative provider. It still reflects and meets those community needs. By going into the social enterprise, they've been able to double up in terms of support, in terms of staffing. So actually the opening hours have actually doubled as opposed to what they would have been if we'd have carried on running the service from its existing building. And I think in time there's a real opportunity for that social enterprise to actually take on in totality the running of that building with some professional support from officers back in Shropshire Council. And I think that's going to reflect the shift that the way local authorities are going to have to start thinking about the way that they deliver their services going forward. Another good example is in Ludlow, which is another market town in Shropshire, in the south of the county, quite well known for those people that like their food. It's a bit of a gastro honeypot, got a number of Michelin-starred restaurants, and is quite a thriving market town, as I say, in the south of the county. Ludlow has a number of cultural facilities within it. It has the Ludlow Resource Centre, which houses our museums collection, holds about 25,000 or so artefacts. It also has, as part of the building, the library as well. So there's the Resource Centre, a small museum, and also the library. We've also got separately in Ludlow the Town Museum. We've also got separately in Ludlow a Visitor Information Centre, and separately again a leisure centre. And I suppose if we were to start again, would we have so many different buildings providing so many different services to probably in some instances the same people? And so what we've started to do, again, in that area, is started to look at where we can start to pull some of those services together into a single building and create a multi-skilled set of staff. And interestingly, we started that with another public sector agency, Job Centre Plus, and we started that about 2 years ago when Job Centre Plus were having to move out of their existing premises in Ludlow and were looking for a new home, and actually approached us and said whether they could actually relocate their service into the library. Now obviously the clientele group of those people at Job Centre Plus is not that dissimilar in terms of wanting to, if you like, to not only search for work but also have the learning opportunity that a library can provide, particularly with the free access to computers that we've got through the People's Network. So there was quite a nice coming together of services with a similar client group that we were able to serve there. And now what we're looking to do, again, I suppose driven to a certain extent by the financial climate, but also by recognising that people don't want to necessarily go to a number of different buildings to access similar services. So we're also now looking to relocate the Town Museum, which is in another part of Ludlow, into the library and resource centre, so that actually what you'll start to create is a range of different services, all served by a single desk, with one set of staff that are multi-skilled to be able to deliver on those services. And I think again that's a shift that local government is going to have to move towards. Local government generally owns a lot of assets, with individual services being served from those assets, and I think we've got to think much more creatively. Firstly, do we need to deliver those services going forward, or is there somebody else that's better placed that can deliver those? And secondly, if we are going to deliver some of those services, is it better to deliver them from a single unit as opposed to a number of buildings? And I think that's the challenge that local government is being faced with. But I think with creative thinking and innovative thinking, we can still maintain the cultural fabric of society, if you like, with the services that we provide, but in a slightly different way, and not being too precious about whether we actually deliver it directly going forward or whether actually we're commissioning others to do that on our behalf. It's not going to be plain sailing, and making that clear to everyone. It is completely different, and you will get people that feel that no, you should have a single desk for a library and a single desk for retail and a single desk for visitor information and so on, or whatever the services might be. But actually, if you just keep pushing people and say, no, we're going to try a new way of working, it is going to feel uncomfortable. You will take some people with you, and there will always be some people that will be slightly reticent, and then there will be those that actually don't believe in it as well, I think. So don't be put off that you're going to meet certain, at different stages, resistance, but I think it's about having that belief and pushing it through. And also, when sometimes things don't quite work, is being brave enough to say, actually, we didn't quite get that right, but we've learned from it and we've modified it, and telling people that, because I think people are very understanding that sometimes you have to take risk, and I think never is there a greater opportunity that is being presented at the moment in terms of the way that we're going to have to deliver services differently going forward, that local authorities will have to probably take more risk than they've ever done previously, in a managed environment obviously, and with risk comes creative thinking, with risk comes completely different new ways of working, but on occasions with risk comes the odd mistake, and I think it's being brave enough to recognise that sometimes you will make the odd mistake, but that in the long term actually the areas that you'll be serving will be better for that creative thinking, for that innovation, that spark, and that conviction, if you like, to push some of those ideas through.